After I released my Why the Holy Ghosted Training Matters video, the clinical director reached out to share their intent, and I felt it was absolutely necessary to do this follow-up, especially because I want to acknowledge that I am still working through some of my own trauma around religion, and their response was triggering to me, and I wanted to hold space for that. They weren't trying to cause a stir. They were advocating for sensitivity, for awareness, and for people who might have felt hurt. They also drew a thoughtful comparison, noting that if someone made a play on words about the queer community, they would have spoken up in the same way. And as someone who has spent years creating space for LGBTQI+ clients, I deeply respect that instinct to speak up on behalf of others. That kind of advocacy comes from care, and I can see that. But I still want to offer a perspective that expands the conversation rather than closing it. Holy ghosted isn't a joke. It's not meant to mock belief. It's a phrase I've heard clients use while navigating the grief of spiritual abandonment, the ache of losing a sense of connection to something they once believed was eternal. For many, it captures the exact moment they felt unseen by their faith, by their community, or by the divine. It's language born out of pain, not sarcasm. And when we ask survivors of religious trauma to soften that language so others don't feel uncomfortable, we run the risk of repeating the very silent thing that they came to therapy to heal from. Some might wonder why I addressed this publicly rather than privately. The truth is, I could have, but this wasn't just a private moment. It was part of a larger pattern, and is part of my responsibility as someone teaching about religious trauma to name those patterns when I see them, gently, honestly, publicly. Because if it made me react, I promise it's doing something much heavier in the minds of our clients. The truth is, this isn't about one conversation. It's about a pattern I see every day in Utah. A pattern where the even well-meaning, compassionate ones struggle to separate what's culturally expected from what's ethically sound. LDS culture is deeply woven into the fabric of this state, and that can make it hard to name religious trauma without fear of offending someone powerful. That's the real conversation. Let's talk about this. Because if the title of this training made professionals pause, imagine what it's doing inside the minds of our clients, those still trying to make sense of what happened to them in sacred spaces. To answer a question that's come up, yes, the Holy Ghosted training is grounded in evidence-based frameworks, including trauma-informed care, attachment theory, feminist theory, and grounded theory analysis, among others, and the ethical standards we are bound to uphold as clinicians. If you're looking for an academic research on religious trauma, I recommend checking out the Global Center for Religious Research. I've included a link in the description below. They're doing incredible work in this field. And to the person who messaged me, thank you. Your concern reminded me how much this conversation matters. Your care reflects the very heart of what we're trying to do here. Protect people from harm and help them heal. So let's keep talking, let's keep learning, and let's make Utah a place where everyone belongs.